Hello, welcome to my how-to video to solve my puzzle, Embrace the Sky. So just a little background on this puzzle. I had previously made a diagonal non-consecutive puzzle, which actually used also little killer clues and arrows. And you can go back in the archive or click up there. There it is, up there. You can click right there and you will be able to see my other non-consecutive diagonal Sudoku. But if you haven't seen either of them, I recommend watching this one first and attempting this one, hopefully. Then you can watch my solve video to see what strategies you might be able to learn from that. And then attempt my previous video, which did non-consecutive diagonals, because this one is easier, hopefully. And the idea behind this one is I wanted to be just the non-consecutive diagonal constraint. And I wanted it to demonstrate various patterns that you'll find that are extremely useful, which normally you aren't really looking for in a classic Sudoku or other variants. And so when you do a non-consecutive diagonal, these are good strategies. Now, what is non-consecutive diagonal? Let's go over the rules. So we have normal Sudoku rules. And in addition to that, wherever a cell is placed, say I place a 3 right here, it means that none of the cells that are adjacent and diagonal to it, so these 4, which are the diagonal cells that are directly adjacent, can be a consecutive value from this one. And so in this case, that's 2 and 4. So we can't place a 2 or 4 around this 3 in this pattern, this diagonal pattern. So you can do it adjacent, and the diagonals can be 3, they just can't be 2 or 4. All right, so those are the rules. If you want to try it, just click the link down below. And after you've tried it, you're welcome to come back and see how I solve it. Or if you don't want to attempt it, feel free just to watch my video. All right, so let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is do some extremely useful corner marks. And in general, when corner marking in a box, it's good to corner mark things that are only available in the corners, because that has a huge effect on the center. So just to give an example, it's pretty clear to see that, and I've actually explicitly set it up this way, when the 5 can't be here because of this 5, and so 5 is limited to these 4 corners. And in a normal Sudoku, you would never corner mark this. But because this is non-consecutive, what this means is no matter where this 5 is, it always diagonally sees this center cell of the box. And as a result, there's going to be a 5 diagonal to it, so it can't be a 4 or a 6. Now, it already can't be 4, but 6 is important here. So the other pattern that's really interesting is if we look at 2s, well, 2 can't be here because of this 2, and 2 can't be here because of that 2. But in addition to that, we have this 3 here, where 2 can't be here or here. So if we combine those together, that means 2 can only be in these 2 cells. And even in a normal Sudoku, you'd probably corner mark that, but here, the thing that's important to notice is that this prevents a 1 from being in either of these cells. And just to demonstrate that, what would happen if there were a 1? So if there were 1 here, well, that would prevent a 2 from being here, and so there'd be nowhere to place a 2. And the same would happen here. Another way to put that is the 2 is either diagonal to one of these 2 cells, or it is in one of those 2 cells, and either way, that cell can't be a 1. So however you want to think about that, that's true. And so even if, say, the 5s or 2s, just to point that out, were in all 5 of these, so it was just missing from these 4 adjacent ones. So if 5s were limited to here, or if 2s were limited to here, for example, that prevents the consecutive digits. So in the example of 5, if 5 were all these, that would prevent 4 and 6 from being in this center cell. Because either the 5 is going to be diagonal to it, or the 5 is going to be in it. All right, so I'm sorry if that was a long-winded explanation, but pretty much the point of this puzzle is to teach those patterns. The last thing I'm going to show is that 8s are actually limited to these two. And again, these two 8s are both diagonal to the center. So they prevent 7 and 9 from being in the center. So if we actually count up what this center cell can be, well, it can't be a 1 because of the 2s. It can be a 2, so I'll just mark that. It can't be 3, 4, 5. It can't be 6 because of these 4 5s that surround it. And these two 8s prevent 7. We can't do 8, and the 8s prevent 9. So actually, this is a naked single once you account for the diagonal patterns. So that is a 2. And we can remove this 2 corner mark here. So now I'm going to just point out a few other corner marks. Some of them may not end up being used, but I think some of them are interesting anyway, so I'm going to point them out. So the first thing I'm going to point out is 3s. So 3 can't be here because of this 3, and then this 4 prevents a 3 from being here. So that gives us 3s here. And so what we can already see is that this is a very useful pattern in Sudoku because it points. Right, so none of these cells can now be 3, but normally we wouldn't have realized that. And just from classic Sudoku, a 3 could have been in any of these, so we don't necessarily look for that. But because this 4 is on the edge, it's important to then see, okay, well, what about 2 what about 3 or 5? And in this case, the 3 does look in here, and it's very powerful. I promise I won't be as detailed for all the explanations, but the next thing I'm going to do is up here. Where can 5s go? So 5 can't be here, 5 can't be here, and this 4c's here. So 5 can't be here. The next thing I'm going to point out is that there's a few naked singles right from the start. So these could have actually been found before we did this too, but I wanted to start with like a cool intro. So these naked singles are here, here, and here. So let's just do one at a time. So this can't be 1 because of the 1 in the box, can't be 2 because it's diagonal with a 1, can't be 3 because it's diagonal with 2, 4, and then 5, 6, can be 7, that's what it's going to end up being, and it can't be 8 or 9. Okay, and I think this cell is a good one to do next. So 1, 2, can be 3, that's what it's going to be, 4, 5, 6, and then 7, 8, 9, all covered by this 8. And finally, this cell can't be 1, 2, 3. It can be 4, which is what it is. It can't be 5, 6, and then 7 is, sorry, from the 6. Took a second. 7 is from the 6, and then 8, and then 9. So the leaves 1, 7 in this box. Can't be resolved yet. Next, we're going to ask where can 2 go in this column? And that's going to actually end up being up here. So 3 prevents 2 from being here or here. This 2 prevents 2 from being here. This 1 prevents 2 from being here. So in this column, we can only have 2s here. All right, and then if we look at this box, 2s can't be here. 2 can't be here, and this 1 prevents 2s from being here and here, so 2s are actually limited to these 2 in this box. That is it for those pencil marks. And now we're going to look at some interesting cells, which, again, aren't going to come into play right away, but I like to point them out early, just so we can demonstrate what they do. So first, if we look at what this cell can be, can't be 1, 2, 3, 4, can be 5, 6, 7, and it can't be 8, 9. Now 5, 6, 7, in any cell in any cell is very powerful against diagonals that are in the same box as it. So this is not going to work for 5, 6, 7 specifically. If, for example, it were here, it would only work against this diagonal because that's in the box, but it would not work against these. And I'll explain that right now. So what it does is it prevents these from being 6. Now, obviously, these could already not be 6, but that does prevent these 2 from being 6, which can come into play later. So the reason for that is if we had 5 or 7, that is extremely powerful against all its diagonals regardless of box, because either it's going to be a 5, which is consecutive with 6, or it's going to be a 7, which is consecutive with 6, which means that it eliminates a 6 regardless from its diagonals. But when we include the 6 here, what that means is, okay, if it's a 5 or a 7, that is going to exclude 6 from all 4 of these. But also if it's a 6, just because now the 6 is here, in the rest of the box, there can't be a 6. So if we see 5, 6, 7, within the same box, none of these can be 6. We're going to have something similar up here. So it can't be 1, it can't be 2 because of the corner marks or because of the pointing, whichever you want to do. Can't be 3, 4, 5, or 6 because of these in the consecutives from the diagonals. So it's 7, 8, or 9. And so again, I'm not going to explain it again, but none of those could be 8. So that's why that cell is interesting. So it's always nice to look at, especially center cells, to see how they affect their corners. All right, so next we can see that we actually have a lot of 2s looking into this box. So we have these pointers and then these 2 2s, and then actually this 3 prevents this from being a 2. So this is a hidden single 2. In addition to that, in this row, this is just normal Sudoku. 9s can't be here, so one of those 2 is a 9. In this box here, if we look at where 3 can go, it's actually a lot more limited than at first glance, because 3 can't go here from this 3. This 2 sees here, this 4 sees here, and this 2 sees here. So we've actually limited 3 to 2 locations in this box. Now let's look at this box with a bit more scrutiny. So we can see the same pattern with 4s that we had with 5s over here, where it's locked to these 3 corners. So what that does is it actually prevents this cell from being a 5. And if we look at what actually is left that it could be, well, it can't be a 1 because of the 2, can't be a 3 or 4, can't be a 5 because of these 4s, can be a 6 or 7, and it can't be 8 or 9 because of the box. And so now this being 6 or 7 actually prevents any of the corners from also being 6 or 7. So the way to see that, in case you're unsure, is, and again, this only works if the diagonal's in the same box, so be very careful about when you apply this rule. But if it were a 6, that would prevent these from being 7 because of the diagonal rule. And if it were 7, it would prevent these from being 7 because it already has a 7 in the box. So again, don't leave a box with the 6, 7. If it were 6, 8, then no matter what, these can't be 7. But 6, 7, where it's consecutive, that only works in the same box. So now we've locked 7 out of here. And if we look, 7's actually very restricted now. So 7 can't be here. This 8 prevents these 2 from being 7. And this 6 prevents this from being 7. So actually, 7 must be in this cell. And of course, this 7 sees up here and makes that a 1 and that a 7. Whoops. And if we look down here, where can 1 go? Well, 1 is restricted from being in the corners by the 2 that we placed a long time ago. So actually 1 is limited to here and here. So if we look up into this box, 1 is limited to one of these 3. And now that we've placed this 7 as well, it may not have been obvious, but that actually made this a naked single 5. So if we look, it can't be 1, 2, 1 from the diagonal, 2, 3, 4, can be 5, which is what it's going to end up being. It can't be 6 from the 5, and it can't be 7, 8, or 9. So it's a 5. And so now this 9 sees these 3, so this must be a 9, which then makes this a 1. And finally, the 6 sees in here, so that finishes our box. Next, we will look at this whole row, and you're going to start seeing why I called this puzzle Embrace the Sky, because we're actually going to work our way up, and we'll find things row by row by row. So at this point, the puzzle is fairly broken, although it doesn't seem that way, and you just have to be very careful about how you apply the non-consecutive rule to various cells. So this can be 3, 4, 5, or 7. And if we look at these cells and what's eliminated, well, the 5 up here sees this, and the 8 prevents this from being 7. This 3 prevents a 4. And in addition to that, we have a 7 in the column. And if you look up here, we have corner marked 5s, so we can't have a 5 here. So this is a 3. So that takes this corner mark 3, so we can place a 3 here. Can't place a 4 yet because it's in 2 spots. But that takes those 2 3s. And if you remember, this 6 7 actually prevents 7 from being here. So now we have a 4 5 pair, putting a 7 there. Next, we're going to skip a row because there's only 3 candidates on this one. So this can be 1 4 or 6. And if we look here, can't be a 1 and can't be a 6 because of the 7. So that's a naked single 4. That takes this 4 corner mark here, finally placing 4 and 5. And again, this 6 7 comes into play. We're moving this 6. So that's a 1, that's a 6. And of course the 1 sees down into here. So this is a 1, and this is a 9, and this is a 1. And if we look at what's left for the row, it's going to be 5, 6, and 7. And this 7 sees the 6. And the 8 sees the 7. So this is a 5. Leaving a 6 in this cell because of the 8 again. So 6, 7. And we can remove the 7 here. So now this 5 6 has become more powerful because it removes 5 and 6 from all of these, not just 6. We're just going to keep building up. So this row here is 1 3 8 2 4. Don't know why I did in that order, but this 2 prevents this from being 2, and this 1's in the box. This 2 prevents a 3 here. We look over here, this can't be 1 or 2 because of the column, and the 3 sees a 4, and the 7 sees this 8, so this is actually a 3. So that removes this 3 here, and we can now place this 3 up here. 3s are removed from these 2. In addition to that, we have this 3, so that removes a 4. And this 1 removes a 2. And of course, there's an 8 right here. So this is a 1. Can remove the 1s from here. And there's a 4 in this column. There's a 4 here. Here. And so that leaves, a 4 for this row. And next we're gonna skip another row because this one ends up more interesting. But you could of course fill the candidates if you wanted to up all the way up. So this can be 2, 4, I'm just looking at the row, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 9. And in this box, there can't be a 4. And this 4 sees 5 here. If we look at columns, there's a 6 removed from here. And this one removes a 2. And there's a 9 in this column. So we're down to 2 candidates each here. Over here, if we look, this 3 removes the 2 and the 4. There's a 5 in the column. The 6 is removed by this 5 6. So 5 6 is removed from both of those. And so now we're left with just a 9. So 9 is removed from the rest of the row, giving us 5. Can clear that pencil mark. Now we can label the row below it. So in this row, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we need 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And 5 can't be in this row, or sorry, in this box. And there's a 7 in this column. This column has a 7 and an 8, sorry, and the 7 is in the box as well, leaving us with 6 or 9. But there's a 7 here, so actually we can place this 9. That 9 sees this 8, so we place a 2, a 6, and an 8. And then that comes over here. 8s are removed, the 9s are removed. We have a 5, 6, 7 triple here, so this can't be 5, 6. The 2, 4 places this 8. And this 6 removes the 5 and the 7, so we have 6, 5, 7. And the 5 removes the 4, so we have 2 and 4. And now we're done with all of these boxes. So now we just have to build up more. So it's going to be a bit more trouble building up unless you notice a couple things. So first we're going to look at 5s. So where can 5 go in this row? And it's going to be a hidden single. So this 5 in this box sees these 3. We have these two 5s seeing these 2. This 5 sees this one, and this 4 sees these two 5s. So this is the only place for 5 in the row. And then if we look up one more row, we can look at 4s. So 4 can't be here because of the box. These two 4s see these 2. This 4 sees this one. This 5 sees this one. And this 4 sees this one. So again, 4's hidden single. Next, we can do this box, and I'm gonna do it one column at a time, and I'm just gonna move my way left to right. So there's only 2 possibilities left in this column. That's 6 and 9. In this column, we have 3, 7, 8, and the 9 we placed and we didn't clear that, so that 7, 8's there. And this is 1 or 2. For this column, we have 1 or 8. This column is 3, 6, 6 or 7. But if we look here, the 7 removes the 6, and the 4 removes the 3. So this is a 7. And then this 5 removes the 6, so this is 3 and 6. Doesn't look like it, yeah, so 7's removed here. So up here we have 2 and 9. So this is 9 and 2. 1, 2, because that sees over. This column has 4, 7, 8. If we look at this, can't have 7 because of the row. And we can't have 4 because of the row as well. So this is 8. And then there's a 4 also in this row. So that's 7 or 8. But we used the 8 already. So 7 and 4. This 7 sees over, places an 8, 3, 7. And of course, this 8 sees this 9. So this is 6 and 9. We should be able to, yes, this 8 resolves the 1 and 8. And just to finish things off, we need 2, 9 here. So this is 9 and 2. We need 6, 5 here. So this is 6 and 5. And we need 3, 1 here. So this is 3 and 1. So that is how you solve my Embrace the Sky puzzle. Hope you enjoyed the solve. I think that if this were a classic Sudoku, it would be graded as easy. And I think what makes it difficult is just that we really aren't used to the non-consecutive diagonal constraint yet. So don't feel bad if you found it difficult. I think some feedback I heard from this puzzle was a combination of difficult and grueling, but also rewarding. So I would agree. I like the non-consecutive diagonal logic that's pointed out by this puzzle. And it's not, I suppose one word you could say is it's not disturbed by anything difficult in classic Sudoku. If you noticed, we basically used pointings, like pointing pairs mostly, regular Sudoku rules being enforced, and then everything else was being done with diagonals. I don't even recall if we even had a double or triple. We may have had 1 or 2, but really it was just that. It was seeing the patterns for the non-consecutive diagonals, especially in corners of boxes. And then we had this diagonal formation here, and then also seeing individual cells, which are either consecutive or 2 apart, which rule out a lot from diagonals, especially in their own box. And just combination of that with hidden singles, pointing pairs, and just spotting the naked singles, which is probably the hardest part of this puzzle. And there you go, that's the puzzle. So I hope you enjoyed my solve here. I hope you learned something. And after having solved this, if you haven't already, now that you're familiar more with the non-consecutive constraint, I do recommend trying my other non-consecutive diagonal Sudoku, which has no placed digits and instead uses little killers and arrows. And I think that it is a harder puzzle, but also if you want to really test your non-consecutive diagonal chops, that's the one to do it on. So again, just point to the wrong way again. Look up at that corner there. I will put it again. You can click there and try out my other puzzle. I'll also put it in the description below. And until next time, thanks for watching.